Greetings all. Before I really start this video, I want to give a disclaimer. In no way am I trying to be sexist, and I do understand that everybody is individuals and we all are different. However, we all have our similarities and can be compared. So what I'm going to do right now, I'm going to show you comparisons esoterically and metaphysically of the man to the canine and or dog compared to the woman and her similarities to the feline and or the cat or the pussycat. So what I'm first going to start off is with, let's go back in time. So ancient Kemet or Egypt, they had many gods, and they derived those gods from what they saw, whether it be people or animals. So anyways, long story short, they had two dog deities. They were both male. There was Anubis and his brother Wepwawet. Then there were two female goddesses represented as cats. We know those names. There was Bastet and there was Setmet. Now, in order for me to get with these, I'm going to compare some things that dogs have that are similar to males, how they act. And then I'll also compare the similarities of females and how they act similar to cats. So it's a little play game, but it's all real serious if you esoterically and metaphysically look at it and understand it. Also, do your research on those four gods I did, and you will see the importances they had on each, especially as their gender and their animals. So first, let's get into this. Dogs poop everywhere, and they don't care who they're around when they poop. Same as a dude. Most men, they will do what they want no matter who is in front of them. They don't necessarily care about that. Whereas girls, mainly they hide stuff away or do stuff secretly, such as a cat who poops. You don't see a cat poop around people most of the time. They go hide and they do their own shit by themselves. So next, when dogs pee, right? Dogs lift their legs to pee. Majority male dogs lift their legs to pee. As for cats, whether it's a boy or a girl, cats sit to pee. Okay? Say what it is, but it's still a comparison. Now, dogs, majority of dogs need to be on leashes. If not, they go running, right? They'll run away if they aren't locked up, if they aren't held accountable, if they aren't leashed up. Whereas women and cats are tended to known to roam free. You can have a house cat. That house cat can go outside with no leash on, and it'll come outside, come back in, go outside, come back in. They need no leashes. Whereas the dog, you have to keep him down, so therefore he can keep secure of the house, but also not run away and do naughty things. So next thing we're going to get into. Dogs need to be groomed. They don't even necessarily care about how they look. Usually they are groomed. Whereas cats bathe themselves and they stay clean. Similar to a female. They brush themselves up, they stay clean, great hygiene, and they make sure that they look representatively, physically attractive. No matter how they want to look at it, no matter how they want to do it, they try to make themselves look better, which is a positive thing. This is not a negative thing. Whereas the dogs, look at me right now. I'm not prettied up. I got a hoodie on. All right, let's go back. Now, dogs will always come back home. Whether they are lost or not, they will find their way home, and they will actually come home. As opposed to a cat. How many stray cats do you see out there? Once they lose their home, they go roam for a better home, a better place, whoever's going to give them their food, whoever's going to give that to them. So they're looking for better, as opposed to the complacent dog who stays with what he is comfortable with. Let's go to another one. Dogs are more or less straightforward animals. They bark when they want something. They move around when they want something. Whereas cats always look suspicious. They're sneaky, they're sly, they're creepy. They always do things on the hush-hush. Okay, next thing. Dogs work off of strict reactions and actions. You tell the dog to come here, the dog comes here. You tell a cat to come here, it will not come here. Not like that. They are methodical and they are calculated, such as a woman. A woman hardly ever just goes off a spur of emotion. They usually calculate everything they do, and they're methodical with what they do. The next thing, a dog, when it is excited, what does a dog do? Wags its tail. What happens to a male when he's excited? His tail wags, right? Let's think about a woman. When she's excited, how does she work? It's not necessarily externally physical, such as a cat. When they're excited, they purr. There's similarities to that in itself. Let's look at another thing about dogs. Dogs are mainly strong and aggressive. They're the protector of the house. Beware of the dog. Beware of the dog. And we see a cat. What are cats? Agile, flexible. They strategize. But they're also cute and fluffy. Same as a woman. They're always going to be physically attractive, but they're always strong. They're strong because they strategize. They're flexible to move around and do different things, and they think with their mind. Now let's look at another similarity between dogs. Dogs look for approval. I'll sit, but you got to give me a treat, right? So they look for approval, constant approval. As to cats, they look for attention. They look for attention to get it. A dog doesn't look for attention. A dog looks for approval, whereas the cat looks for the attention. Dogs are feared first on their first impersonation. When your first impression of a dog, what do? You're weary of it. You don't know if it's going to bite you or attack you. Whereas a cat, you look at a cat, oh, look at that cat, so cute and fluffy. Same as with a man and a woman. First impression of a woman, you look at their physicality and how they look and how they are. As opposed to a man, you look at what he can do and what he won't do. Here's another one. Dogs are animals of action, and they can be very reckless, such as men. We're men of action. That testosterone's built up in us. We necessarily don't think before we act. We usually just act, which makes us reckless. Whereas the women, or cats, these are animals of emotions and thoughts. So remember that. Women use their emotions and thoughts, and that's a positive thing. They use their emotions and thoughts. A lot of times they only keep it to themselves, such as a cat would, whereas the dog, when something's wrong with him, he will bark and let you know that the dog is something wrong. You should listen to that, compared to the female or the cat, who use their emotions and thought. So they'll think about their emotions first, keep it in thought, but not necessarily express those emotions. Now, the next thing we're going to get into is dogs. Dogs rush into everything. You open the door, they rush outside. You give them the food, they rush to go get the food. Anything they do, they're constant, non-stop running and moving and everything like that. Unless it's a lazy dog, but even that, he's trying to make the most of his laziness. Whereas cats, they take their time and calculate. Such as a woman, she's going to strategize. She's going to think about how she's going to go to the store and what she's going to buy. She doesn't necessarily just go to the store and sporadically buy stuff. A woman's more calculated, so you must take that. That's a great thing. You take time. That's why a man usually refers to his woman when it comes to making decisions, because they will make calculated decisions and not necessarily move off of reactions. Another thing, dogs need to be trained. In order for you to get them to sit, come here, and everything else, they have to be trained, and they're willing to be trained. What are cats? Cats train themselves. They already learn things. They clean their own bodies. All you have to do is sit out kitty litter. You don't even have to tell them where to go to the bathroom. They'll find out that that's where they go to the bathroom. They'll find a way out. They'll find a way to figure out how to catch that mouse. They find things out compared to the male or the dog, who has to be trained to know these things. Let's do another thing. The dogs need to know the rules. They need to know what they can and can't do. Such as a man, he needs to know what he can and cannot do, as opposed to his female counterpart or the cat, who bend their rules. They'll know the rules, but they'll figure out how much more they can do for the betterment of themselves or others around them. But they will try to bend the rules to figure out how far they can go, whether it's for the best or for the worst, but they do bend the rules. Dogs, what do? You feed them a bowl, right? You give them a bowl of food, they'll eat the whole bowl. They will definitely and could possibly eat themselves to death. Whereas a cat, what does a cat do with their food? They play with their food. They take their time with the food. Same thing as a man. He rushes into things, he hurries up and gets it done. What does a woman want to do? She wants to take her time. She wants to make sure she has it correctly. But she'll also play with her time too. She'll also make sure that she's enjoying herself with what she's doing. Let's get to another thing. Dogs, what do they do with aggressiveness? They bark and they bite. What do men do? They yell and they react. It's not necessarily always a positive thing. It's just a similarity that I'm bringing upon the male and the canine. We bark and we bite. As opposed to a woman, as opposed to a cat, what do? They scratch and they claw. They don't want to, but when it's time to, they will. And when they stick their claws in, they go deep. Look at how cats hunt. Do dogs hunt? Not as much. Dogs listen to their masters to go hunt, whereas cats, they go out and hunt for their own food. To let you know thing, me personally, I don't go grocery shopping, but guess who goes grocery shopping? Another thing, dog senses. What are the dog senses? The best senses they have are smell and hearing. What are the best senses that a cat have? Eyes for seeing and their sensitivity to the touch. Let's compare that to a man and woman. Men, dog senses. Smell, hearing. Smell that perfume? We're trying to hop on. depending upon what you hear, depends upon the decision that you're going to make. As opposed to the woman who sees things. She has to see it first. She has to see it to believe it. Also, she has to feel it, the sensitivity to touch. Woman's feelings, emotions, desires, that's all feelings. To the touch, a sensitive touch, I might add. Let's get to another one. Dogs can smell the bullshit. They know when there's bullshit around. They can sense it. They do it. Look at your dog. He will sense when bullshit's happening. He will sense if somebody's outside of your door and you didn't even hear that. Whereas the cat can see what others can't. Theirs is more of an intuition. They'll feel it. Whereas the dog can hear it, the cat will feel it. The cat will know that something is coming awry. Same thing as a woman. A woman's intuition is something very powerful. That is one of the key powers of a woman, is their key to intuition. Just having feelings. I felt that something was going on, so I had to go check it out, and it was true. Another thing. Dog's hair is rougher, right? A dog's hair is rougher than cat's fur. Such as a man's skin is usually more tougher than a woman's skin, because the women's skin are softer, more delicate, better to the touch, whereas man's are more rugged, callus-filled, and just rough in itself. Another comparison. Men acting like dogs. What do you say? He was dogging her. He was acting like a dog. He was a dog. Women, what is the comparison to that? Yep, you're right. Pussycat. Or at least having one and using one. They purr like a kitty. What do they say? The kitty cat. That's a main comparison. Now, dogs bark when they want something and will bark louder if they're not heard. And then they act. If my dog wants to come in, it barks. If I don't let it in, it barks louder. If it starts to really want to come in, that dog will bark and start to jump until she gets what she wants. Whereas the woman, cats rub against legs, they put their face on you, they purr, and they even meow to strangers. Which lets me know that the cat, all it wants to do is be felt and touched the way that it wants to be. It wants to be known that it's loved. So the cat goes to look for it. So it'll rub its head on your shoulder, it'll rub its head on your leg. And if you're not responding, guess what? It's going to go to that person right beside you. Rub its head on the shoulder. Rub its head on the back. I'm not saying that every woman does it. I'm just saying if a woman needs attention and doesn't receive that attention, she will go look for that attention. Whereas the dog, he's going to bark, 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 bark. If nothing happens and there's no barking, then he's going to go find something else to go sniff up. Now, these are small examples of the differences between men and women, but the similarities between the man and the dog and the woman and the cat and or feline. I hope you take this into consideration. Run down the whole outline, look at it yourself, listen to it, and also do your research on Anubis, Wepawet, Bastet, and Sekhmet. Look these up. Look at what they were for. Bastet, fertility. Anubis, death, power, strength. Sekhmet, she was a warrior goddess. So that's the strength of a woman that she has. Whereas Wepawet would guide those to where he needed to take them in the afterlife. Do your research. Hope you have a fun time. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, you don't even have to say anything else. Just keep your knowledge and look for more. Thank you very much and have a wonderful, great day. Remember, this is your reality. You created it as such. You create the reality that you want, whether it's bad or good. You can always turn a negative into a positive, and you always keep a positive. Have a great one.